Hi there, Megan Thompson here with Megan Thompson Coaching, and today we are going to speak about the pathological demand avoidance profile of autism compared to the highly sensitive temperament trait. And I know that based on the length of this podcast, this message will not be pervasively in depth. And all-encompassing. And the focus today is to help you think differently about raising your sensitive child who experiencing big emotions and start to wonder what types of labels are empowering compared to being disempowering for your family. All right, let's dive in. Here at MTC, we help parents of highly sensitive kids eliminate daily meltdowns in as little as 8 weeks by raising sensitively resilient children. Now, what does that mean? That means that we don't eliminate meltdowns by, pushing your kid into a box and requiring them to do as you say, even if you're in charge, right? We help parents foster emotional intelligence, which is the capacity to understand your emotions, how big they are, decrease them yourself, and teach their children to creatively solve problems, like coming up with solutions to regular everyday issues, brushing your teeth, following through on a task, getting your homework done, talking to friends in social situations, and navigating those relationships safely. We teach parents how to do this because this is what the research demonstrates for the temperament trait for highly sensitive children who have a natural disposition towards being thoughtful and sensitive, wise, deep thinkers, right? They notice lots of details in the world, and when calm, especially if they're in a meltdown cycle, when calm, they're much more capable of communicating their needs and naming all kinds of factors in the environment that they were considering when they were struggling and experiencing overwhelm. They're very self-aware when they have the opportunity and they're not overwhelmed by the emotional intensity. And if your child's been having daily meltdowns, hitting, kicking, screaming, yelling, throwing things, and you've been struggling as a parent, even if you're using gentle parenting, then it is important to listen up, because this is one thing that we see so often with our clients. And I have a high-level overview for you today to start to shift your beliefs about what's possible for your family. Now, if your child is refusing and shutting down instead of having meltdowns, or in addition to having meltdowns, then that is part of the meltdown cycle. Even if meltdowns are happening daily, but you see that your child is shutting down or refusing on a daily basis, then listen up, because it's very possible that you might be down multiple Google and Facebook channel rabbit holes to try to figure out what is going on for your child. And you very well might have come into contact with the term pathological demand avoidance. Now, pathological demand avoidance is a term that is stemming from from a researcher in the United Kingdom. And what's important to highlight here is that researcher works in the United Kingdom. And the United Kingdom is 10 years behind the United States mental health system, mental health research, and mental health culture, right? So raising emotionally intelligent children and fostering emotional intelligence is much more of a pervasive value in the United States culture. And as a result, in the United States, the research has been more thorough, more prolific, and more effective than the research in the UK. Now, does that mean that there aren't pockets of well-versed people in the United Kingdom about emotional intelligence? No, that does not. This is not a straw man argument. What we're talking about is noticing that culturally speaking, the mental health world and the emotional intelligence world is much more effective in the United States compared to the United Kingdom. That is really important when we're talking about the history of the PDA label, because the PDA label is only a little under a decade old, around a decade old, whereas the temperament trait for highly sensitive children and highly sensitive people is over a century old. So newfangled terms with less research and a culture developed in a culture of research in mental health that is behind the United States has taken has set fire in the United States because of social media, right? There's reels, there's short form video that a lot of parents are learning from, and a lot of therapists are learning from. Sadly, I've just seen it all over the internet. And teaching parents based on this fad pop psychology information that happened to spread widely because of social media. Now, does some research help and has some research been more thoroughly shared wide and help parents solve problems and help people in the medical world solve problems? Absolutely. So I'm not saying that we should all stick in a box and keep gatekeep this information, psychological intelligence information, if to professionals only. That's literally the opposite of what I teach. I teach parents to be the therapeutic change agent of their child so their child can change without outsourcing this to therapy, which takes years, right? It's ineffective and inefficient. So stay out of the black and white with me, please. What I think is important is for us to pay attention to highlighting what we talk about, what we teach our clients here at MTC, what is possible for your child, and then what is ineffective. Where does your child get stuck if you use a label that is based on behaviors that your child is demonstrating rather than their initial disposition, right? So how they experience the world is different than how they respond to the world. How they respond to the world is based on stress in the environment and how they're raised, right? So this nature-nurture experience. When you add nurture to the nature of a child, their personality develops. And a personality is the behavior that you see and the actions that your child takes and the thoughts that they share with the outside world and the thoughts that they get stuck on in their own mind, right? So this is important because when we look at the pathological demand avoidance personality type or a subsection of what's considered autism, what the researchers are demonstrating is that somebody who is telling you that they can't, they won't, no way, even if they want to engage in a demand, this is lifelong, they're telling you. And they're telling you that this is, it needs to be more widely accepted and quote unquote allowed. And I have a different perspective based on all of the work that we've done with thousands of clients, hundreds in the coaching company for the last, close to 7 years at this point that we've been running an online business. And yet PDA just popped on the scene about a year or two ago in social media. All right. So here's the deal. This is important when you're raising a child who experiences big emotions and has a nervous system that is responding to life as if it's on fire. When you're seeing inconsistencies, what's important for you to notice is that is likely due to your child's environment, to their nervous system overload, right? Rather than to their regulated temperament, right? So temperament, disposition, basically the same term. How your child initially experiences the world, how they were born, their natural tendencies, right? So, for example, if you haven't already figured out, my natural tendency is to be assertive. One can perceive that to be dominant. My dominance is not coming from a sense of insecurity or judgment. It's coming from a lot of certainty and experience. However, when I was in my 20s, early 20s, or even beyond that, I definitely was much less emotionally intelligent and was certainly emotionally immature and would respond to the world in extremes. I would either be passive or I would be responding to the world with more like pressured intensity, right? So in undergrad, I received feedback that I was an intense person. Passionate, yes. Intense, yes. And effective now, for sure. I don't need other people to do what I want them to do or to believe me or to agree with me. And that's because I've engaged in a lot of personal development skills over the years and have healed some ineffective skill sets myself over the years, working with lots of professionals, as well as studying and getting a degree in this stuff early in my career, but then working with effective coaches throughout my lifetime as well. Now, what's important to notice is that my temperament doesn't change. I'm still very outcome oriented, still very driven personality, still very effective at reaching the outcomes that I set for myself, both in business as well as with our clients, as well as in my personal life. And so that's not going to change. I'm not going to stop being driven and assertive. I will, however, change my delivery, which impacts how my personality is demonstrated, right? So that's what is important for us to ensure that we're talking about, because a child who is feeling very overwhelmed by an experience can regulate that emotion, can decrease the anxiety or doubt or fear or worry or overwhelm, dissipate it like sand in an hourglass, and then have the initial urge to say no, disappear, and then say, okay, and I need help. That is what we teach our clients to help their children do. And their children do it. So I think it's a grand disservice to parents that the PDA profile has gotten traction in today's society, because autism exists, right? I'm not here to tell you that it doesn't. And it's also true that the temperament of a sensitive, thoughtful child who is easily overstimulated when they don't have emotion regulation skills and they are not taught in a matched way to their temperament creates a child who says can't, won't, no way, who is easily overwhelmed by the world and experiences a heck of a lot more anxiety and nervousness and a lack of resiliency in the world, right? So we've spent some time this year. I went through why defiance is actually a demonstration of a lack of resiliency. So is demand avoidance, right? Avoiding what's expected of you is an anxiety response. Anxiety stems not just from the brain and how you think about the problems. In fact, children don't often think before they act. That is literally an inappropriate assumption of how their brain works and a non-scientific manner of how their brain works. It's also true that the brain is miraculous and can change and can be rewired. And so it's while children respond with can't, won't, no way if they're emotionally uncomfortable and feeling incapable, and as a result have low self-esteem, what's very important to understand is that we can't swing to the other end of the pendulum here and make that mean that children are incapable and will continuously avoid demands and are going to struggle for the rest of their lives. That is wildly inappropriate for the potential of your child. And to stick them in a box like that, I think, is a grand disservice. And quite frankly, I feel fired up to say that it is unethical of professionals to say that children will stay like that for the rest of their lives just because they haven't been able to help people get out of it. I mean, it's like telling somebody that their stage 1 breast cancer is unhealable and will never change, right? Because you're calling it stage 1 breast cancer and you've never healed it yourself as the doctor who's seeing the patient, right? How terrible is that? Just because you've never learned and developed a process that actually works doesn't mean you should drastically create shortcomings for your patient, right? So what's important to highlight is that when somebody is experiencing an immune deficiency like stage 1 cancer, and don't get me wrong, I've experienced lots of death due to cancer in my family. So this is not meant to be an insensitive conversation, right? I have experienced a lot in my life, and as a result, I speak about it without being triggered by it. So when we're talking about a doctor who's diagnosing a very healable process, but they don't know how to heal it themselves, and then as a result giving a death sentence to somebody, that's unethical, right? So why is it not unethical for a professional who's never figured out how to shift a person's personality to say that that personality is fixed and unchangeable. To me, that makes zero sense. That makes zero sense, because how you experience the world and how you perceive yourself as capable in the world can absolutely change when you have skills and support networks who understand you. As an adult, we all know that that's true. We know that our perspectives can change when we have emotion regulation skills and we have a hope for the future and we have a purpose in life. That's the difference between growth mindset and fixed mindset. So why are we working with or listening as parents? Why are we listening to people, professionals, who are telling us that your child's personality is fixed? If you want your child to have a growth mindset, then you need to teach them to their strengths. You need to notice that sensitive children notice lots of details in the world. They have many, many skills, and they are much more capable of being effective with those skills to show up in life and manage them if they can also manage their emotions and they feel capable and they have high self-esteem. What leads to children having low self-esteem? The fact that their parents don't believe in them. The fact that their parents create a shortcoming. And the fact that their parents set them up for a lack of success, for sure, right? You can bet your bippy that if I believed my kid couldn't do something, she wouldn't be able to do it. If I talked to her about that, if I spoke to her in a way that she was incapable, then she would follow suit. I want to give an example. All right. I personally have a fear of falling. Now, I would love to go skydiving one day. That is on my bucket list. I will never go bungee jumping. No, not on my bucket list. Okay. So I have a fear of falling, not a fear of flying or a fear of heights. I fly all the time. I've been flying, for many years in my adulthood. And so I enjoy being up high in the sky. I don't enjoy falling when I'm attached to things. Actually, it's a very specific fear of mine. And it's also true that my daughter is part spider monkey, I believe. She's extremely physically adept. She climbs our stone fireplace, so I take her rock climbing instead because that's something that she enjoys. And it's a skill set that I don't really have. I wouldn't necessarily call myself very athletic. Heavy weightlifting and dancing are my exercise skill sets of choice. Climbing is not my forte, but we go and we do it, and because she's enjoying it and she likes to do it with me. Now, I took her to one of those indoor sensory overload extravaganzas, like, go big or go home. It has like rock climbing and ball pits and trampoline park and all of that. I'm not going to name the name, but it's a chain. It's probably nationwide. And you guys know she's a sensitive soul. She's such a deep feeler and such a wise soul. And this is noticed by adults, by pediatrician, her caregivers, nannies in the past, teachers, etc. Not just me, right? And I'm not shouting from the rooftops my specialty to everybody that I talk to. So is outside observation as well as inside observation. She is very intelligent from an emotional standpoint as well, and gifted, I would say, on that front for sure. And then also, I do believe that she has a lot of intellectual capacity and is advanced in certain ways for her age. She's also physically adept. Like I said, can climb all kinds of stuff. All right. So because of her temperament, I know that it is so important that she maintains an identity of a resilient child, that she stays focused on persisting. If at first you don't succeed, try again, because she can trend towards perfectionism. And now we help clients who have their children have debilitating perfectionism. They immediately throw things out. When they make a mistake, they chuck it. They flip chairs. They do all kinds of stuff when they don't get it right away, or they're frozen and they can't do it right away because they're worried they're not going to get it right the first time. Getting it right the first time is a characteristic of the highly sensitive temperament trait. Is a desire to do something really, really well, and a high desire for efficiency as well, because highly sensitive people, when they have effective emotion management skills and are thriving, they see the big picture and the small picture at the same time. So they have very good follow through, and they're really, really good at what they put their minds to. And they don't usually leave a lot of holes, right? So this is where that when I say that highly sensitive people become people-pleasing, perfectionistic workaholics at best, it's because their bosses notice that they're really, really good at what they do. And they tend to be they started in school, the one who's all the work got passed off to them because they didn't have emotion regulation boundaries and it was difficult. They wanted to please other people, right? So they were the ones, this might be you, they were the ones who were finishing the project late at night and wanting to get the A, and it didn't matter if the peers were holding their end of the bargain. And then we see, and Elaine Aron talks a lot about this in her adult books as well. We see this showing up in the workplace. You can be easily burnt out because you're the one who's relied upon more often than not because you're very good at what you do. And as a result, you get more projects, underappreciated, as well as poor boundaries from the boss, expecting you to do all of the things because you do it the best. And as a result, you end up burning out, right? So this is where the highly sensitive trait without emotion regulation skills and the capacity for resilience and to set effective boundaries can really set you up for failure in adulthood. Again, what are all those skills? Those are all skills that are taught by parents. So because I know that as an expert in the field, I am raising my child with the skills that I teach my clients, right? We teach our clients this all the time, that your child needs to be able to feel like they can thrive. People who are thriving in all avenues, socially, demonstrating extroversion and friendliness, creative problem solving, negotiation, and compromise. They're thriving for children. That means academically, that they have a love for learning. They're curious. They're internally motivated to get their work done and to continue to learn, rather than task-oriented. Do I have to? Okay, fine. Can I just do this one piece, right? That's an external motivation, looking for your approval to get the job done, or just doing it because they have to. That's not going to lead to a love for learning. They are inquisitive, and they engage in problem solving, and they contribute to the environment. So happy to do chores and to contribute to the family because they're acting on empathy. They are collective and collaborative, and they feel socially connected, and therefore they want to give back. And then they are also contributing to other people's emotions by not adding to the equation, and they're emotionally intelligent, right? So they are able to pace themselves when they feel stressed out and slow down, ask for help, advocate for their needs personally, as well as take care of their own needs. They're not experiencing learned helplessness. Okay, so this is a successful adult. A successful child does the same stuff. So, child who is thriving in the world is reaching their potential in every avenue. Friends, school, education, self-education, community, and family. All right, those are the 5 qualities that we talk about when we're raising resilient, thriving children. They are resilient in all avenues of life, not just one, right? So this is important, all right? So again, what's necessary is my kiddo asked me to do a zip line. I said, no, thanks, because at that place, I've done the zip line before and I really banged my shins. It's painful. So it's not just scary for me. It's also physically painful. And mama's got boundaries. I said, no, sweetheart, I'm not going to do that. You can go and I'll be here cheering you on and notice that. Right. But I'm not going to do that because the way that it's set up, it's designed for children. So, I just don't have the skill set to not hit myself and curl into a little ball while on a zip line, because again, I'm, in those situations, I'm really focusing on breathing and in a little bit of fight or flight myself because it's scary. Okay. For me. Now, I did say that I would do, there's like a ropes course where you're up in the air. So think like, tree trekking kind of thing. Okay. So I did that with her instead. And as leaders, we go first. She wanted me to go first, so I went first. And believe me when I tell you, I was petrified because I don't like that stuff. And it's also true that I am not going to be a barrier to my child and her skill set. She loved it. She loved it. She was, following close clip behind me. And then I let her pass me and I geared up to go to the next level and walk myself back to that thing and get back to solid ground and stable ground. And I did it too, right? But I did not tell her in any way, shape, or form, are you sure you don't really want to do that? Are you sure? Do you think you can do it by yourself? I don't know. I mean, let's go do the bounce house or the trampoline or laser tag. I'm really good at laser tag. I'm happy to, play with you there, right? I did not discourage my child from her interests and her skill sets and her ability to stretch her skill set. Because if I did, I knew that would impact her self-esteem. I knew that would impact her self-confidence. I knew that would impact her identity of somebody who's a problem solver and an effective thrill seeker, right? Very good and safe and focused on safety as well as, engaging in all of life's opportunities. So I did not let fear overcome me and I did it. I'm not going to sign up to do it again anytime soon, but if my kid needs me to do it in order to feel confident, then I will do it for her because that's what good parents do, right? We do that, right? And so here's the deal. I just ask you to contemplate today. Why would we tell ourselves that our children are avoiding interests or things they know that are helpful for them and that's a fixed experience? And I ask you to ask yourself, how are you contributing to the environment that your child is learning in an effective way? And how are you contributing in an ineffective way? And if your child is struggling and won't know way, sometimes that means that's because you're walking on eggshells. And I say this to our clients and our prospective clients all the time. If you're walking on eggshells around your kid is getting a subtle message from you that they are incapable because you are overperforming for them, which will turn into enabling and coddling. It's also true that if you're engaging in force, even when you're reactive, and I know you're doing the very best you can, but if you don't have a process and a system to raise a resilient child, you will do this reactively. And that means that if you're using force through empty threats or actual threats, if you don't do this, then I'm going to take it away with anger in your voice and overwhelm in your voice or pressured speech, then you are telling your child that you are in charge of their behaviors and they're not. And that in of itself tells you that you don't believe that they can. Either they can't do it quickly or they can't do it at all. And as much as you don't like it, that's what's happening. And it's contributing to this belief that your kid is fixed in their belief that they can't solve problems. And beliefs aren't fixed. Beliefs are just thoughts that we tell ourselves over and over and over again. So I encourage you to change the way that you hear this message and change the way that you perceive your child. If you want our help to do that, there's lots of factors to change this dynamic. One of them is shifting out of your methods of communication. All right, go over to meghanthomsoncoaching.com/talk and book a call with our team to help your child thrive. And first, break out of the meltdown cycle as a family. All right, we'll talk to you soon.